Michael, no. Well, I was thrown off because it's Michael Perron. And am I saying that right? Or Perron?
Perron.
Yeah. Perron? Okay.
It's like the pear.
Oh, okay.
That's all it is.
And so, well, because I usually go right to my husband. And
right. So it just didn't transition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Brain fart, muscle memory. Yep. I get it.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty.
Kicks in.
Yeah, for sure. So this is our guest tonight, Michael Perron. My husband is unavailable this evening. He got tied up into something, so he's not going to make it. But he said he'd be watching, which is awesome. So we'll give him a shout out. Hi, honey. So I want to start with a little giving shout outs to our sponsors. Oh, thank goodness he's here. This is why I have a ribbit. A shout out to our sponsors. Mary Beth Wright is our primary mental health. She also does EMDR with us at Little Blessings, and she's the owner of the Center for Healing Connections. It's a mental health services, and they're located at 111 East 1st Street, Suite 200 in Monroe. They provide professional service counseling to individuals, couples, and families, specializing in trauma-informed approaches. Okay, got that. We're going to go on to you in a second. I just posted before we got on live tonight the McConnell Minute. So we are now switching some things up with that. That is going to be airing on Mondays, first thing Monday mornings. That's how we're going to start our week out with Little Blessings is putting out one of the McConnell Minutes. And then we will incorporate it into our Wednesday night show as well. Because it's so good, we want to make sure everybody gets to see it. And tonight's a good one. You guys are going to love it when you see it. We are so excited. We want to say a big thank you to everybody. We needed 100 YouTube subscribers. I know it sounds crazy. No. In order to shorten the name. Because when you first subscribe to YouTube, the name is like 7 miles long, right?
Now you've hit your subscription.
Yeah, so now we are at 103. So thank you very much for those who have subscribed. It is now YouTube Warrior Spotlight, and you can find us there. And then we have a spotlight question that we're going to start asking every week when we do the show, that questions that we get asked a lot as veterans. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start with that. So one of the questions that we get asked a lot as veterans is, what should we say when we see a veteran? What do you say people should say when they see a veteran? What do you say when you see a veteran?
Been there. That's what I typically say.
And that's fair.
I mean, I'm kind of indifferent to it. I always love it when somebody says, "What do you want from the menu?" type of thing, and I love that. But just your everyday thank you. That's kind of a nice thing, and I mean.
Do you wear hats a lot?
I don't. No, I do not.
Because that's usually a telltale sign.
True.
For a lot of like the older Vietnam.
Yep. I do not wear any sort of distinctive marking that would say I'm military, and I'm terrified of needles, so no tattoos.
Really?
So, oh yeah,
not one.
Not a single one. I'm terrified of needles, been since I was a kid, so it's kind of an impediment.
Okay, then.
That is.
Got it.
That is.
Well, we have a couple other suggestions for you, for those of you who are asking these questions. You can thank them for their service and their sacrifice. A lot of times you'll see them, whether they're standing in line at a gas station, whether they're out pumping gas, in line at a fast food place. Just thank them for their service and their sacrifice. You don't have to get into a big conversation, because I know sometimes it makes it awkward for you who want to thank them and them who you're thanking. Because a lot of them, it's one of those 6 and 1/2 dozen other. They liked being thanked, but it's this awkward moment. Like, what do we say in return? And then you can let them know that you're grateful for their service and their sacrifice. Especially the Vietnam veterans.
Yeah. Those guys got a raw deal.
Yeah.
Men and women. Men and women got just...
It was really crappy for them when they came home. So even if you see them today, what do they say you should say? It's not... welcome home.
Welcome back.
Welcome home. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you see a Vietnam veteran with that on their hat, say welcome home, because they did not get that at all.
They with what the sacrifice that they made with being, I mean, it wasn't their choice, but being treated the way they were, and then to come, to have to come back, it was a struggle, but it made my war, the OIF, OEF era, and post-Vietnam guys, they should be forever grateful to what the Vietnam guys had to endure.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, we hope you guys are staying. We got 7 viewers, so that's pretty good tonight. I know it doesn't seem like. Now we're up to 8. Yeah, that's a lot for usually for us.
Perfect.
We get more as we post it on, but
right.
People who are actually tuning in. So this is good. Yeah.
That's good.
So we like that you guys are making suggestions like that for us to add in those questions, so we can give you a little more information.
Interact was great.
Yep, and like I was telling Michael, and I say this a lot on the show, we are raw and real, so this is about reaching the veterans who are sitting at home isolating and struggling, and or their family members who do not know these resources exist, right? Or someone like you exist in the community who has a shared experience, right?
Yeah, you're not alone.
So we are going to start because we like to build character build, as my husband says. So we like to know a little bit about you, right? Because we don't want you just to be here. We want to learn a little bit about you. So give us a little background as to why you chose the military. Do you have family in the military? Why you chose the branch you chose? That kind of information.
Well, where to start? It all starts back when I was a kid. I was like 11 years old, and I said, no, I want to be a soldier. Grew up on Hollywood movies, like most of you, and it kind of skewed what it was really going to be like. In 2002, 6 months after 9/11, I joined. I was a junior in high school as a split-op reservist, which I did not. I would have done differently had.
So break that up, because I know
what's a split up?
We as veterans have a very bad habit of doing that, saying things that we think the whole world knows what we're talking about.
So what a split
and
up?
They don't.
What a split up was where you most people, when they join, they sign the paperwork, they go to the military entry processing station, which is MEPS, and then get shipped off to basic, which is boot camp. Okay. Boot camp on directly from there onto advanced individual training, or your A school, whatever they call it in other branches. With split up, it was a little bit different. I graduated basic 28 August 02, and I came right back. Had a 4-day weekend, and I was a senior in high school. I was a kid, and that was not the greatest thing, because you enjoy your life back here and then you go on to your AIT. And being a reservist, I was able to kind of see the ins and outs of what my unit was like, knowing the opportunities or lack thereof that were at this unit particularly. And it really kind of jaded me when I went on to AIT. I'm dealing with a lot of guys that are fresh out of basic going, hey, I'm going to go punch a Nazi. And I'm like, no, you're not, man. You're going to be lucky to get paid. And that's the way it felt. Right. So I made it through AIT, and I ended up deploying a year later to Iraq, 06, 07. My job when I originally joined, it was called 77 Foxtrot, which was a fueler. I was 17 and I made a choice. But when I went overseas, I was an 88 Mike. I did convoy security and drove big rigs for a time. And that was an experience. But I was in the Army 02 to 12. And after that, it was on to new things. But 10 years was enough, and I got out, and I've been doing my thing ever since, I guess.
Can we talk a little bit about your...
Sure. Okay. Ask away.
So tell people what did you call your second job?
88 Mike. It's convoy security.
Convoy security. So talk to...
You ever heard of roadside bombs? Yeah, I met a few. It was... Our job is... we were a pretty vulnerable situation, just simply due to the fact that you're a vehicle driving on a road. Your enemy is going to know where you are. It wasn't like we could just go off-roading and do whatever we wanted. We're driving supply convoys on these roads and guarding them in gun trucks. And So what Haji would do is just put out IEDs on the side of the road, and some of them they were rather elaborate, and others not so much. And I think the second week we were in country, we were briefed that Al Qaeda in Iraq was offering $100 for each IED put out. Now, in a country where the average income per year was about $350, we were told, all you got to do is put the thing out there, take a photo, and take off. That was what we found out the requirements were for this. So there were some guys that I think I don't think, honestly, they wanted to hurt any of us. They'd build these huge, elaborate IEDs and never camouflage them. Pretty obvious that where they were. And they're always in the same spot. Like, it takes you back to the old MASH days, 5 o'clock Charlie. He's always hitting you at 5. Same kind of boat, So that was something. But I honestly liked doing the job. I did. Mainly because you weren't on the fob. You weren't doing a 9 to 5. You were out doing different things outside the wire, and it was a lot easier to. You had more freedom, so to speak, to do certain things, and you also got to travel. I can say that I saw a good majority of that country, north of Nasiriyah. It was, most people that I know, like I've got a buddy, he was an infantryman that he knew one neighborhood in Sadr City. One little patch of neighborhood was his neck of the woods for the whole war. And nope, I don't have that. I have the exact reverse. I don't know any of the areas that intimately. I know stretches of road, like where it was hot, but that was, I could just check off a checklist. Yep, been there. So I thought that was kind of.
So what was your mindset when you first went into a scenario like that?
Originally, you're dressed to the nines, doing everything right, and after about a couple months, you realize you can discern what's all right. This is a real threat. This is not that big, and you. Excuse me. It was not a scenario that you were too worried about. You got to know your environment. It's just like anywhere else. You know which intersections are dangerous in your town, and it's the same kind of thing here. But and
that's crazy for people. One of our guests on another show had talked about that, right? The experience of getting comfortable in your environment, right? And it is weird how that happens, right? Because I deployed as well, and you always have that heightened sense, but then you're like, okay, and that itself though is kind of scary, yet it's those fine lines.
What did they call it? Complacency.
Yes.
There we go. You don't be complacent. And that was, so when we were in Balad, we got stationed at Balad from May of 2007 until late September, late September is when we got out of there. But what would you call it? Trying to formulate my thoughts. I wish I wish I could do that pretty easily. But what we would do is in that area we knew that things were a little bit different. We were supporting the surge moving north out of the Baghdad area, and so Bakuba, Samara, Tikrit. This was our neck of the woods, Taji. And it changed things up quite a bit. Whereas when we were driving up north, we knew driving by we have this road, it's called Santa Fe. It runs from Mosul out to Tel Afar, which is a city in the northwestern part of the country. And there's this prison on one side of the road. You knew somebody was taking the money who was a prison guard because we'd always get hit right in that stretch of the road. So we knew that. But outside of that, it was cruise. You drive on, you own the roads. We didn't allow anybody on the roads at the time with us. And we always felt bad sometimes because they were minorly. We'd get guys that couldn't beat. It's kind of like us here with a train. And you want to beat that train so you don't get stuck by it. Well, beat the American convoy. Otherwise, you're stuck going 50 miles an hour and you're late to work. And that's what it was. But, the train isn't going to do much to you except crush you. I mean, we had some pretty heavy armament they didn't want to get in the way of. But yeah, the complacency does set in. Because if you stay at that heightened level, you'll burn yourself out a lot quicker, and you can't. And you get to the point where you just don't care. I mean, we used to say different things. If anybody from DoD's watching, this never happens. Right. But you would just sit here and go, if it can make it through that door, this little piece of Kevlar isn't going to stop much. This thing hurts my back. Right. So whatever, your vest might slip off or whatnot. And you just didn't care. It was, you moved on and you did your thing.
Yeah. And that's so crazy because we talk too about firemen, right?
Yeah.
And how they are day to day because part of that is a coping mechanism, right? It's a coping mechanism for your environment, right? And it's not that you don't take your situation seriously. It is that coping mechanism of where you can maintain your body and your stress level at for any given amount of time,
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, because
that was scary. I mean, that was what was scary for us. And when you kind of just let that go, it was okay. And it was always like once we got down to Balad, that's where I was going earlier. I kind of came back full circle. We started taking casualties. We had one guy lose his arm. We had one guy that got crushed by a truck backing up. It broke his ribs. He survived, but he was sent out to Germany right away.
An American troop?
An American. These are all Americans.
Okay.
When we got transferred down to Balad, we had to be up and operational in about 3 weeks, which meant taking a lot of safety risks. We got that done, and of course we had to build our gun truck company up from the ground up. So what they went to are the other 4 gun truck companies on that convoy road, like the road where we were all stationed. We were right next to each other. You had an artillery unit, an infantry unit, chemical company, transportation, which was us. And the other one I want to say was, what do you call it? It was a quartermaster company doing the same. We're all doing gun trucks. That's all we were doing. Didn't matter what you were. But they gave us their crappy vehicles, and we had to build them up.
Oh.
One of the issues we always ran into is the U.S. Army, in its infinite wisdom, did not do stock ordering from what we felt. So if your vehicle went down, like, you're stuck for 2 weeks till this thing arrives from the States. So you had to scrounge and scavenge and whatnot. And, of course, receiving the crappiest vehicles because, let's be honest, these guys don't want to get rid of their good stuff. And give it to you guys. Here's the crap. Fix it up. You do it. Our mechanics burnt out pretty quick during that 2-week period trying to get them up and running. And there were a lot of safety precautions that were cut. And anybody, a 50 cal looks really cool when it's firing on a Hollywood movie. But in real life, if you mistime that weapon, there's this key that you have to put in. It's this $10,000 piece of metal. It's precision built to a certain specification, and you have to time your weapon, which means on a 50 cal you screw the barrel all the way down, and then you have to back it out 3 clicks. Then put this key in it and make sure that the weapon is timed right. Well, guys were rushing this, and on a 50, the shell doesn't shoot out the side, the casing. It goes straight down. If you mistime this, those shells come out really, really fast. Hollywood movies are all timed right. That's what it's supposed to do. They just drop the shell casing out. No, these, they would shoot out. Well, in our vehicles, armed security vehicles, or ASVs, they have a turret similar to a tank, but it doesn't have tracks. It has wheels. But the 50 cal sits like right here next to your head, and your arm is resting on it. So if you mistime that, shells will rip right into your arm. We had a guy get knocked out. He was knocked off the line because of that. And we had to call basically a pause for a day to get everybody kind of able to get it together because we suffered, I think, 3 non-battle injuries just from that kind of stuff. And these are bodies that are gone now that we couldn't use. Then you start getting hit with the heavy IEDs. These things we didn't have anybody killed by them, but we had a lot of traumatic brain injuries. And because of that, these guys are no good now. They're off the road for 2 or 3 weeks. So we had to start, this is where the story comes full circle. We had to pull guys from the FOB to do these jobs. Well, that armorer has never left that gun cage the entire time. So for him, he's wired to the max, like, oh my God, this is real. This is about to happen. And we were all kind of like, yep, don't worry about this stretch. We'll tell you where it's bad. And that guy was way too wired. And we had to basically tell him, calm down, quit freaking out. And, you know, it's the way it goes. But that's that heightened sense of awareness. That,
and a lot of people don't, you know, that's what I love about this.
I talk a million miles a minute. I'm sorry.
Well, no, that's what I love about doing this podcast is because you really get to hear the real behind it, right? Because there's so many things, just so many things about the human emotions of what's happening that's tailored in that situation, right?
Absolutely.
Like you said, you brought in a new guy and he's like, what the hell?
Right.
Right? And you guys are like, no. And he's trying to get to that place, but he's like, I don't know what you guys are so laid back about, you know? And that's kind of crazy. I wanted to ask you too. So traumatic brain injury. Tell our viewers what a traumatic brain injury is.
I have no medical degree. I will give you my best example of it.
Of what you experienced within your troops.
Okay. What the traumatic brain injury did for a lot of guys is all that happens is there's an exorbitant amount of pressure put on your brain from an impact of something. Football players experience this with head-to-head collisions. It was this massive explosion, which is a huge rush of air, and your head hitting the side of something. That's what happened to me. I was driving. We got hit under the right side, and my head slammed into the side of the Humvee.
With or without a helmet?
With. Yeah, we never took them off. But one thing I'll say, they had these Bose headsets that were good for shock isolating. That worked really, really well. But it was, what happens is like your body, you'll get bruised like in normal life. The bruise goes away in like a month, 3 weeks, whatever it is. You know, your brain, it doesn't do that. That bruise is there forever, from what I know, and that's how they're able to tell years later that you've had this. You know, and that is. That's essentially what I know about TBIs.
So, you were diagnosed with a TBI?
No, I'm having to go back and fight that.
Oh, okay.
There was some research that came out a couple of years ago. Apparently, that was groundbreaking, saying that the way we were testing you guys before, that wasn't exactly right. Well, I was tested with that block of guys. There's a lot of guys from my deployment that are, I might have that. I have these symptoms, and they go, now they're going back saying, hey, retest me under these new standards. And that's the thing. Your brain doesn't heal. It just learns, like, you have this soft tissue now, it's called. It's dead tissue. It just sits up there. So the wound will still be there years later. Your brain just kind of works to say, well, whatever was going on in that section of your head, we're going to try and do it over here. But it's amazing what the human brain will do, but there's always drawbacks.
Yeah.
So,
are you connected with the VA?
I am connected with the VA. I'm trying to work through veteran navigators to help me out because, quite honestly, I'm terrified of the system just like everybody else is. It's this massive bureaucracy that makes you, just by its sheer presence, go, I don't want to deal with that any more than I have to. And that, I'm having somebody more or less hold my hand saying, no, don't be afraid of that, scary building. And it is what it is, but
that is factual.
You got to you need the help. You got to push through it.
Yeah.
So
you just said you're getting help with a veteran navigator. What is a veteran navigator from what you know?
From what I know, a veteran navigator is somebody who navigates the bureaucracy of they help the veteran get the benefits that they need or whatnot. They educate the veteran as to who's eligible for what. Me being a combat vet, I know I'm eligible for certain things, but there's a lot of guys. My old platoon sergeant, really nice guy, never saw anything. And he's like, I'm not a vet. I didn't do this. And it's like, Donnie, you were over there. You were over there. Yeah, you left the base a few times. That's it. And you didn't get hit. But that doesn't disqualify you from going. So navigators help educate you as to, no, buddy, you're okay. You can get benefits as well as people that don't have honorable or other than honorable discharges. So it's
how did you get connected with the navigator?
It was actually through work. I was contracted to do a job, and I met this individual through that job, and she recognized that I could use some help and offered her services. So I was like, wow, you guys exist. This is great, because my first time through it, I did it on my own, and I was terrified. I was beyond terrified with what they were doing.
Yeah, it's always, what I like to say about the VA is I'm an advocate for it, right? Because I know there's many resources that are available, and that could be very, very helpful to the veterans or the veterans' families
Absolutely.
that need it, right? It is challenging, without question. It is challenging, right? And to get a good veteran navigator or veteran a VSO, veteran service officer,
yep.
to get a good one of those is critical to
Yep.
be able to do that. And
Absolutely.
our organization, even though what we do with the equine therapy, we still are connected to other resources. We try to find as many resources that we can to help other veterans navigate that system,
Yeah.
right? And Erica has been on this show a couple
Yep.
different times, and she is absolutely spectacular, right? And I was talking to somebody today. What people don't realize either is that Ann Arbor is the only VA hospital in this area, right? We have Toledo Clinic, but if you're going to go see any, if you have to go for any specific medical procedures, you're going to Ann Arbor,
Right.
you know? And veterans will travel, right? And so whether
Yes,
they
we
live
do.
in Perrysburg
Yep.
or Bowling Green, or it doesn't matter, because getting connected to those resources, if you can get connected and get what is rightfully yours, right, you will go and you will be connected. But it is that process.
Once you get through the process, it does help, and you're going to struggle with everything individually as to what your actual issue is, and it's just a process. That's the best way to say it. It's a process, but it's worth starting, because once you're in the system, it tends to generally function pretty well. It's once you take a dip out of that system and then try and get back in, that you got to start, I don't want to say all over again, because you're in the system, but yes, you kind of got to take a step and get into it.
Let's talk about your transition from
Sure.
your military service and into the civilian world. What did that look like when you got out? Where did you go? What did you do?
I did photography assisting for a while. So for me, photography was something I enjoyed passionately before going to Iraq. I did it over in Iraq and photographed my unit, and it was a fun thing, and I just kind of continued to pursue that. Came back, started to apprentice under a old Vietnam vet who worked in Detroit. He did a lot of commercial editorial work, and sadly he passed away a few years ago from cancer. But I settled back here in Metro Detroit. I am a full-time caregiver to my mother. She's had 2 strokes and survived uterine cancer. So she's a pretty big trooper, and she was a single mother as a kid when I was a kid. So and she was great to me. I never had to worry about coming home and I was getting the belt or something like that. That was nothing I experienced. So I always told her, if you were horrible to me, I wouldn't have been here. Wouldn't have been doing this. You're going to a home.
You'd be in a home,
right?
woman.
Exactly. And she laughs at it.
That's
but
amazing.
We've got a good relationship, and she's an aging hippie. So
Can she get out and about?
She can get out and about. So the first stroke didn't really do a lot. The second one, it made her physically slower, and she struggles to pick up her feet sometimes. Plus, she also smoked for 40 years, which that'll do it.
Yes.
She has COPD and struggles to get around a little bit, but she can, when necessary, go and do certain things. It just typically it's one activity a day, and then she's crashing out. So, I'm had the extra room. Here you go. Go ahead. Go in the room. And what we'll do is, which is added challenges in life. But I like to cook. That's a hobby of mine. So, I'll just make meals and feed her. That's kind of what it's like.
No,
But,
that's amazing. Yeah.
it's good. It's enjoyable. it's a humble life. And I saw my life going in a very different direction when I first came home. And when that wasn't panning out, I became more bitter, more angry. I was discharged in May of 12 or March of 12, and I never looked back. I don't yearn to be back in, because when people think about that, yeah, being overseas was, once you got over that heightened sense of awareness and you became quote unquote complacent, and it just became kind of like your everyday job, it was blissful, because it didn't come with a lot of the garrison routine and protocol that you have back here in the States. And that was something I appreciated. But by the time I was done, I checked out. I was done. Never looked back. People are like, "Oh, all you had to do is 10 more years." I'm like, "Nope, I wasn't. I was in no mind frame to do that." So I made the right choice, and I don't regret it one bit. But it changed things, like because more or less it was late 12 when I got out, and I started kind of figuring my own life out. I got a job for a while at a plastics factory, and it worked. It just wasn't my passion. My passion was creativity. So went on to doing that.
Awesome.
So,
well, that's great.
Yeah.
Did you have any struggles in that transition? The reason that I'm asking that is because those are pieces that I want to touch on, if you're willing to touch it. You don't necessarily have to talk about them, but that's what this is, right?
Right.
I don't want to paint a picture like you got out, got a job, and your life has been great since then.
No, it was not one bit, because I have a fairly decent gift of gab, and that got me in the door to work. But my anxiety from PTS, which I am diagnosed with, I have anxiety and paranoia from that. I don't trust a lot of people, and it's at work. You would deal with a lot of really petty adults, and fortunately, my experience in the military, save one or two people, it wasn't really too petty, which that is an exception. I know that, but there are a lot of petty people in.
Yes, there are.
But with that, I didn't really transition well to that. So my paranoia would kick off. I'd quit a job, and it would just get me out of that fight. Everything was fight or flight. And to this day, it's still very much the same way. Either you're going to fight it or you're going to fly. Well, I don't like going to jail, so I try and avoid fighting. It's all right, man, I'm out. Not dealing with this anymore.
Right.
And that, when needed, you can defend yourself. And I've definitely had incidents where that has happened. But went down the road of drinking for a bit, and that didn't really amount to much. So
usually doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't really go there. And
doesn't help with those other things.
Fortunately, I was very fortunate. I didn't end up with a DUI, with a DUI of any sort. But I guarantee I probably could have. And it was a slow build back. But I think what helped me most is when I tempered my expectations to realize this is your life. Like, I wanted to travel as a photography assistant. It was something I looked forward to for a long time, because when I did the job back here in Michigan, it was great and I loved it. You can make a living doing it, but you live out of a suitcase. That's great. Then I kind of got locked down here to Michigan with Mom's health. So I had to make a choice. Do I pursue this or do I not? And with that, I don't have any regrets for staying here in Michigan, but it was a challenge to retailer how I did business. And now it's starting to come around, and life's been looking up for the last few years pretty good. So I'm hoping it continues, and glad we're done with COVID, and better days ahead.
Yeah. And that's how I met you, was through Erica.
Yeah.
Right? So Erica was on the show, and he just happened to be meeting with Erica in this area.
Because we're working on another a project together.
And then he stopped in here, and I was talking, and within minutes I'm like, hey, you want to be on the show?
Yeah.
And so we planned a date, and here he is.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us, I did get on your website and I looked through your pictures, right?
Sure.
And I absolutely like looking through your military, because you've got them set up in files, right?
Yeah.
And just looking through your military pictures, right? I loved that, right? Just, the things that you captured, right? And we put out on out on this already, your links to your website, your Facebook, so it's already out there, so people can see out there.
Check it out.
But tell us what you do now.
I do photography for a living. I do more media work as well. I'll do podcasting, X, Y, and Z. But with this photography, I'm mostly doing event and sports work now. I will take occasional clients in other genres, but I've really kind of limited that because everything in life became, like I was saying a minute ago, about tempered expectations. What do you really want in life? All I want is low stress. If you can keep my stress low, I am happy. And that might seem like, you don't want $1 million? No, man, I want low stress. I don't want the IRS. Get away from me. Nope, you are not. I'd be too afraid. I'd give them all the money because I don't want to be bothered by them. That's me. It's get away from me. Get away. Right. So I'm, for me, it was low stress. I love doing what I do. I play hockey and on a veterans hockey team for a veterans hockey program, the Motor City Veterans Hockey Association, and it really helps with getting out and being able to be active and enjoy a sport, have a passion for a sport that is shared by other vets, and we connect on that as well as our military service. But I
thinking about having you on tonight. I love how a veteran's recovery, a veteran's journey for their for good mental health, right, is so individual, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, yours is photography, right? You love photography, and it's very apparent with the pictures that you took in the military, right? But that was and is a source for you, right?
It is. It is. I mean, and I've done family work. I've done weddings, and it's, you just kind of learn to what you like and what you don't like. And, it's a situation where some people, medication very much helps them. And, others, it's not the same way. They have to find a different way. And that was kind of a big thing for me personally. And it's the drawbacks that came with certain avenues of mental health care. It just wasn't worth it to me. And so I'm fortunate that I was able to kind of move past that. But every day it's step by step. What are you going to accomplish? What are you going to do? I live on a calendar. If I don't have that calendar, I'd be lost because I can't remember anything.
Right.
Hence the TBI that I don't have. Right. So it's that's pretty much what I do right now.
How long have you played hockey?
Since 2015.
Okay.
And Did
you play hockey when you were younger at all?
No, my grandmother, who was the one who would have been able to afford it, said, "Nope, you're playing baseball. That's too dangerous." So I played baseball, and she recently said it a couple of years ago. She's like, "Man, you love that hockey," because she lives south of Nashville, by about 45 minutes, and I drive. I mean, anybody who plays hockey knows that recreational hockey. You live anywhere within 2 hours of your home. If you have a rink, that's close. Like and I'm spoiled in Metro Detroit. I mean, I've got like 6 within a 30-minute drive. Right. So I'm very, very spoiled in that sense. But she was shocked that I was driving up to the Nashville area because in their area, it's there, Chattanooga, to go skate. And I'm like, I like it. I mean, this is what I enjoy. You never really liked that baseball. Nope. Not. It was fun. It was okay, but no, it's not my passion. So it's a fulfilled life there.
Awesome. Is there anything that you would like to share with us about your journey, or that we didn't talk about, or that you would say to another veteran who was watching, or a veteran family who is watching?
Veteran families, don't ever say you understand. It will, at least for me, that always made me super angry because you don't understand. Okay? You can sympathize and you can appreciate, but it's kind of, there's a roundabout story to that I won't go into, but my family is now starting to appreciate because there's a member of my family who recently had a friend who witnessed something rather traumatic. The friend is going through classic PTS symptoms, and I'm sitting here at a family event recently going, yep, been there, am there, still there. And I'm like, I'd love to talk with the guy. And, it was, we could connect. And whereas my family, they're like, wow, this is real, because they didn't think it was much of anything. But, I mean, for the vets, try as best you can to be understanding with the people that are in your life that they're not going to know. But it's okay to reach out to other vets. Okay, reach out to them, and even if it's just a BS, I have never met a vet that is that selfish that won't give you the time of day to be able to talk about those kind of problems, because I guarantee you they're going through it too, one way or another. It is what it is. Yeah. And for those of you that don't have that combat badge, that doesn't mean shit. Just you're still a vet. You still went through it. You still know what. When I say went through it, I'm saying the system that is the United States military. That's almost traumatic just in being part of it.
That's true.
Okay, and you are worthy of it. It's not something that should ever be taken away. So
yeah, and I appreciate all of that. And I don't know what opportunities you have, but we have found that family piece, right? Because it's funny that you say that, because never did I think my husband would be my co-host, right? Because he would say things that originally like, oh yeah, it's like this or it's like that, right?
No, it isn't.
And it would make me mad, right? Yeah. But the one thing that I've learned of doing this show, right, is that they don't have anything to compare.
They have no reference.
They don't.
None.
Only something in their life, right? And so I have learned to appreciate that from my husband, to where he's trying to understand, right? But it is a clear definition of there's things that he just won't, and that's okay. That I have to put that on a shelf for me and go to somebody who does understand it, right? Yep. Someone like yourself, right? And it is always amazing to be with a veteran, and I always reference it as like wearing a pair of comfy shoes, right? Yeah. You're around a veteran, and you're just like, hey, dude, you can know them 10 minutes, and you'll be like, I
had a bad experience it was a family funeral. Really old guy. It was his time. And I met this guy who was the guest of my cousin that I've only seen like 4 times in my life. We know each other. We're like, yeah, I've seen you. Wow, you got bigger, and you move on. Like that's that side of the family. Well, this guy and I are BSing over being in Iraq. And it's you use events to find like dates almost in the times that you were there. And there was one specific event we were talking about. Turns out his convoy was right ahead of mine.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was really, really tragic, because we drove by the wreckage. It was a drain culvert. They had stuffed at least 10,000 pounds of what the heck was it? Explosives. I can't remember exactly what type. And they blew the drain culvert right out from underneath this ASV, killed everybody inside, because this vehicle, it's 20 tons or 5 tons, whatever they are, boom, just flipped on its back. It killed everybody, and that was his convoy. And it was really weird, because oddest place in the world, we're at a funeral, don't know you from Adam, and boom. I mean, it's a small world. It really, really can be a small world out there, but it's good to be able to connect, and that was good.
Yeah, that's awesome, and that's why we do what we do. The equine therapy is one piece of it, but a very important piece is our community dinners that we get together once a month, right?
Yeah,
and so it's amazing for the families, the kids, and the veterans all together, right? Because they've all got somebody that they can share their experience with. We have a kids group going on right now, which is pretty amazing. It's our second kids group. And there are 3 dads in there right now who are currently serving in the Army Reserve now. And all 3 of them were there last week. And then there was a dad that he was in the Army Reserve, but he was out of it. But I mean, it was like, the dynamics of this group is going to be so fun, because I was listening to some of the wives say, yeah, we just moved from here to here and moved into here to here. And, And they never knew that,
Right, they didn't know that.
And now they have a place to gain community at,
Yep.
right? And their kids do, and so it was just really cool to go. We have 3 currently serving members here right
Yeah,
now, which
that's
was
crazy.
pretty cool. I know, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, so they all got together and they were chatting about what they do and what they did, and I'm
Nice.
like,
And
this is amazing.
Yep,
Yeah.
put a couple pieces of food in front of them, they'll go for hours. That's how it is.
Yeah.
That's how we are.
Well, I really, really appreciate you coming here.
Yeah,
I appreciate,
you
sharing.
having me. Definitely.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is, I love doing what we're doing. We're reaching families and
which is important.
veterans who think that they're in the game alone and they're not.
Yeah.
So we are definitely there for
You're not
them.
alone.
No.
We're all going through it in one way or another, and appearances are deceiving.
Yeah, exactly. Don't believe Facebook.
Yeah.
Except for little blessings pages. Well, thank you so much,
Yeah,
Michael.
thank you.
All of your stuff is out there, your website, your Facebook.
Perfect,
If
perfect.
there's
Yeah,
any
check
other
it out
links
if
you
you
want to
want.
send me,
Yeah.
we'll get it out there for everybody else. And then we'll send you this link so you can have it and move it forward anywhere you want to after the show.
Sounds great. Thanks. Appreciate you having me.
Sure. And I want to give a shout out again to Mary Beth for the Center for Healing Connections. Thank you so much for sponsoring our show. We can't do it without you. We can't do it without the viewers. And
Thank you.
yep, God bless and have a great night. We'll see you next week.